When I got to college, my mindset was that I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to experience the things that I didn't get to experience in high school. I figured I didn't party in high school, so I'm definitely gonna party in college. Honestly, I just realized I wanted to drink, you know? I wanted to drink pretty much every day of the week. Second semester, that's what I did. I drank at least 6 out of the 7 days of the week. My second semester of my first year, I failed every class.
I need one for the pasta with the black bottom. Yeah, flat pan. I started using probably around 12 years old, I think. I really just started drinking and smoking weed, and it was because I was hanging out with older girls. Typical day was, I would do anything to get money, first off. That was like my first thing. Get up, let's pawn something, let's go steal my dad's debit card, anything to get high.
Yeah, I started gangbanging early, 9 years old. And then I started smoking cigarettes, and after feeling cool smoking cigarettes came the marijuana, which was the gateway, and I say that came about 11 years old. So going from 9 to 11, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, then I picked up the bottle and came to drinking. And your body at 11 years old is not capable of handling my intake.
It got to the point when I was 13 years old, right at the end of everything happening. I hated myself so much, and everything, that had to do with me. I just looked at myself in the mirror one time and I just said, this is me. This is exactly where I'm at. This is what I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. My face was all sunk in. I was 110, 115 pounds. I haven't eaten in forever, haven't slept in a few days, and I'm fixing to start my first day of high school. I just hated myself so much.
I was very good at keeping family life and then my life separate. I had the real me, and then I had the facade me. I would always go home and, my mom would ask me, oh, you're not supposed to drink or smoke cigarettes. They're bad for you. I would always be like, oh yeah, Mom, I'll never do that, because I looked like a good kid.
Parents so bad want to believe their children, and people who use or become addicted will lie, will cheat, and will steal in order to have the substance, because their brains and their bodies become chemically dependent upon it.
National statistics say that the average age of first use for alcohol and tobacco is 11 and a half. So that's right around that 5th or 6th grade area.
Because a lot of times people at 12 years old, 13, 14, their whole life is run on emotions, high and low. One minute they are best friends with somebody, the next minute they lost their boyfriend. It's just a high and low of emotions, and understanding what they're going through, not only what you see on the outside, but internally as well.
So children are products in their environment. If they come from an environment where there's drug use going on, or perhaps there's, single parents fighting, or there's divorce going on, we don't know what type of environment they're coming from. And what we also have what's called risk factors and protective factors. And so risk factors can be, an area with high truancy. It can be an area with low literacy rates.
I will say that in my career, we are experiencing a much higher instance of prescription drug abuse, especially amongst high school and college-age kids today than we did even 10 years ago. There's plenty of these substances available as close as your parents' or your neighbor's medicine cabinet, friend's purse, the internet. There's just so many ways to get these things, and in many cases, especially for that demographic, it may actually be easier to acquire those substances than it would be some of the others. Almost inevitably, the drug is available in the household in which they're raised. And in many cases, the child has learned that behavior from watching their parents or caregivers demonstrate the same behaviors. We've talked to children many times that are very aware, much more aware than the parents may realize, of exactly what type of things their parents are doing, what type of substances. They may not know what it's called, but they know they're not supposed to be doing it. They know where they hide it.
I think many times people think students who have addiction problems have green and purple hair, they're full of piercings and tattoos, and they open the door and they say, these look like regular students, and they are. Students from all walks of life, some very quiet, some very outgoing, all kinds of kids. And they economically, ethnically, disease of addiction really knows no boundaries. So you can't say there's a typical student who comes here. Age-wise, it's probably 15, 16, because most people haven't gotten treatment, in the 13, 14-year bracket. But 15, 16, and I've had people as old as 20.
The most important thing I have learned from raising 3 what are now adult children is that no matter what family system they come from, once they're engaged in a community out there, they are vulnerable. And someone once asked me, is your kids were not at risk? Every kid who lives in this country is at risk.
I started using drugs when I was 14 years old. I was in Boy Scouts, and there was a group of scouts, my friend's older brothers, that would smoke pot during the campouts. And so I started smoking pot. It's really creepy because when I started smoking, I remember telling someone that once I started doing this, I felt that I liked it so much I wasn't going to be able to stop.
I was 14 years old when I first tried meth. I just fell in love with it, and it took over my life, and I was out of control, and it was in control. I had nothing. It was just meth every day.
Actually, right when I first started using, heavy drugs, it was for me. I was chasing the high. I wanted to use drugs because I wanted that high, because it felt good. And over a period of time, that high just disappeared, and it became a trap for me. And instead of me actually wanting to use drugs, I wake up having to use drugs. And I had to do something about it, because if I didn't, I would get sick.
When kids are using, it's 2 to 5 times worse than when adults use. When any substance use occurs, whether it's alcohol or marijuana or heroin or cocaine or methamphetamine, all of those will injure the brain. If you look at the brain model, this is the cortex. This is the part of the brain that you use to think with. The white, the entire white, the outside, the cortex, this is what you use to think with. If you open the brain up, alcohol and drugs, when they go into your bloodstream and up into your brain, they go to this part to give you the high or the euphoria. This is the part that's actually injured by the disease of addiction. The kid's brain, all people's brain develop from back to front. The back of the brain develops the beginning, and as you 11, 12, and as you go up into your teens, this keeps developing. This is the part of your brain that really helps you to think abstractly. This helps you make your decisions, helps you to multitask, it helps you to control your emotions, it gives you insight and judgment. This part of the brain, compared to the rest of the white, is extraordinarily more injured than the other parts. And so the judgment, the insight, the part of your brain that can recognize there's a problem is actually turned off.
I was busted. They were asking me, oh, what's this? Why do you have all this stuff? It was clear that all of this was mine. I had no excuse for it. I just stood there silently. They went through my room, tore everything up, trying to find what I had. And I had a bag that I had at my friend's and I came home with, and it had some pills in it. And that's the only thing they didn't find. I knew exactly what I was gonna do. I got a marker and wrote in the mirror my suicide message, and I took a bunch of pills and tried to kill myself, just lie down, went to sleep.
If you find something, if you find evidence that there is something going on, likely there is. And when you find evidence, it means that it's probably not the first time, that it's been going on for a period of time, and it's so important that you take action, not overreact, but to do something. And so the first step would be to educate yourself. Educate yourself about what you found and get multiple opinions on people that you can trust. I also think it's very important if parents would get out of denial that this is not my child, this could not be happening to my family, and take action.
It's very difficult. As a parent myself, we try to make sure that we are the ones to control the medication, don't have more than you need, and most importantly, just be aware of who has access to it and how much of it is actually in your house. The same thing goes for prescription medication. I think that most parents right now have some type of prescription medication in their house, but probably, if we were completely honest, would have absolutely no idea just how many pills are still contained within that bottle. So at the point that you're finished with that particular prescription, dispose of it properly, and if you're not, then keep it secured and just keep that temptation down. Not only for your own child that lives in your house, but children that visit your house may potentially have that temptation, and that would reduce that risk.
And it is very important to intervene to get an accurate assessment from someone who specializes in addiction to figure out where this person is and what would be the appropriate treatment for them. It could be outpatient, it could be counseling or therapy, or it could be inpatient rehabilitation. And once you know that information, and it is okay to get a second opinion, to see if the same opinions come. The whole goal of working with a professional is to keep the situation calm and to access that person and to get them into recovery, to get them in a safe place, because in most instances, they're engaged in very dangerous, harmful, even potentially lethal conditions.
All right, the court calls next the case of State versus Kyle Maury. Kyle, would you come up, please? Kyle, how are you doing?
I've been doing fairly well.
Okay, good. Tell me how things are going in your life.
I've got a job, working full-time. I'm going to IOP twice a week, going to 3 AA meetings a week. And I didn't get caught until it was between 18 and 19 years old, and that was for robbing a house. One of my friends was watching this house, and I had broken into houses before, but I knew this would be easy, and I did that, and his dad eventually found out within 24 hours and knew it was us, and he made his son try to get us to bring back the goods that we stole. I had already sold off everything. I sold it for cocaine and Xanax, and I did about 5.5 grams of cocaine in roughly 3 hours and took about 15 Xanax and overdosed and got taken to the hospital. And then I eventually got taken to a mental institution because they thought I was suicidal.
And one of the biggest mistakes that parents make is they lecture, 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 okay? If something happens and they find something that scares them or concerns them, then they're going to begin to lecture. And the minute during those teenage years that the parents start lecturing is when the kid checks out and goes away. And it's even worse if they start yelling and ranting and raving. They don't hear a thing that you're saying. What's most important is that parents ask questions, stay calm, show care, love, and concern, and listen. The hardest thing to do is when you get some information, you want to react to it and discipline rather than listen and hear the rest of the story.
When we talk to the parents, we let them know that. Again, the children are the product of their environment. And so we try to educate them about communication skills, about communicating with their children at an early age, about the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Again, it's not necessarily going back to the scary stories or the scary pictures, but it's really having that open communication, letting a kid know that the parent is there for them to talk to.
I think the number one thing is to be open-minded of what they're going through and understanding that their situations are very different than what we had when we were growing up, and just to kind of hear them out as far as that goes. But keep the line of communication open and try to bring yourself back to the time when you were their age as well. You can be the parent still and not have to be the friend, and you're kind of that cornerstone for them. You can be that strong person for them that tells them, you know, I understand what you're going through, but you can also make certain decisions in your life. I know you've learned, you're real smart. I know you can get through this, whatever it is. Even if they're not too open with you, you can kind of give them guidance in that and reassure them that they have the skills that they need. And if they feel they don't, then maybe that they can come to you with anything as well.
Well, I mean, communication is key. I advocate for parents to be a parent, not be the best friend of their child. I mean, you're certainly there looking out for their best interests. You're their number one advocate, but you don't need to be their number one confidant as well. You need to actually parent your children. Parents that are the child's best friend really lose a very important connection between, well, the parent connection is very important, and that gets very grayed.
It's almost as if you have to schedule quality time. And I'm a parent, you know, I'm a grandparent. Everyone, for the most part, is working through the day. You spend more time with your coworkers than you do at home. You spend more time in school than you do quality time with your own family. So it's almost as if you have to schedule time to shut everything down and actually have some interaction, some communication.
Honestly, a big thing that changed everything, the Father's Day before I got sober, I went and had breakfast with my dad. Of course, I had been doing drugs the night before, and I was still high when I went and had breakfast with him. It was so bad at the place that we went to eat. I could barely talk, I could barely place my order. And afterwards, when my dad said goodbye, he said, "I love you, but what have you done with my son?" And that's when I really started to take a look at who I was becoming.
I was angry at them, angry at myself. I had a lot of mixed feelings. When I talked to my mom about it, even my stepdad, she said she had no idea that this was completely off her radar. She thought this wasn't a problem at all.
Never in my life did I want to go up to my dad and say, "Hey, I am a heroin addict." And that's what it ended up as. I mean, I had to eventually tell my dad every single thing that I had done. And that was probably the worst thing I've ever done.
Antonio, where you at? Hype is like, hype teaches everybody else how to express themselves through action. Like, you know how people, they'll express themselves, just by speaking, they saying words that have no action. Hype actually, express themselves and tell other people and other kids that drugs are bad for them.
I hope they do walk away with the message to stay drug-free and that drugs do not help you get anywhere in life. And if you want to excel, whatever dreams that you have to keep, they know now to keep that in mind, that they can't do drugs.
As a youth prevention director, we have a team of prevention specialists that we have go into the schools. They deliver curriculum, which is basically lessons on life skills, on teaching students how to deal with emotions, how to become more assertive, how to build self-esteem, and these curriculums are age appropriate. So we work with the middle schools, high schools, and the elementary schools.
Some other things we talk about, of course, are self-esteem and self-worth. Letting them realize that they are worth being drug-free and healthy, and they are worth the time or being respected as well. When they get older and get into relationships, that they're worth that person to be trusted or respected and not to be abused. We also teach them on making decisions, that they can make their own decisions. Somebody else doesn't always have to call the shots. They can make their own decisions, giving them that empowerment as well.
I'm amazed today, and I feel good today, because number one is you guys are here today. How long you been clean?
Just a little over 3 years now.
All right.
We'd like to think, and sometimes we portray that it looks easier than it really is, but it is difficult because you're dealing with people, not just individual students, but also their families who have been through a lot, not just with the family itself, but the legal system. And they've all tried to change, and it's a process. And there are days that are very rough days. Students that are wanting to do the right thing, they've damaged some of their brain cells in terms of learning, they get frustrated, but they try. And I think our focus is to really just keep working with you. We don't give up.
I had periods of sobriety before, but they never lasted. And I knew that drug court had a routine and accountability through the judge and the kind of counsel they have that would hold me accountable for what I was doing wrong. And it worked.
I'd been to rehabs before. They never really worked. I never really tried. And at this rehab, I really just kind of came in with an open mind. I was really at a really low point, and I wanted to build myself back up. So I started speaking in meetings. I started reading NA literature, AA literature, and I really just time went by, you know, and I'm still in recovery, and I'm happy right now with where I'm at.
I'm glad we can actually do stuff like this now.
Me too. I really appreciate it. It's not worth it at all. You're gonna get to the point, if not already, where you're not having fun, that it is sincerely your job. And it's not a fun one. It's not a job that you're gonna like.
And just, you know, today, seeing myself where I was and where I am today are just completely two different people. And, you know, the amount of gratitude that I have for life today, you know, there's not enough time to sleep now because I love life so much. I want to be involved in it. I want to do something in it today versus there was no time to live because there's no point in living.
Besides being sober, I'm also very happy. I can actually get out of my house without having to take some drugs or drink before I actually go do anything. I no longer have to rely on those substances in order to get through my day. But the biggest thing about my new life is that I believe I have a purpose again. And I know I'm going to be successful as long as I actually put one foot in front of the other and continue to do what's necessary.